If you guys ever wanted to get into One Piece but thought it was too long, the story's been going on for like 20 years or something. And a lot of the times I hear a lot of my friends say that it's just too long for them to get into and that they can't, it's just like, they really can't. I mean, and I'm like, well, you just gotta watch it, right? And then I thought to myself, you know what, why don't I go through and make videos describing what happens in each arc so that people who want to get into One Piece can actually go in and watch the videos and kind of get an idea of what's going on, what's happening. So I started to re-watch it and jotted down some notes and decided to make this video and put it out there so that people who wanted to start watching One Piece can get into it and get up to where we are. My name's Xlim, nice to meet you, and I hope you enjoy. We're gonna start at the Shell Town arc. It's the very beginning of the story. We just meet Luffy. He was in a barrel because his boat got sunk by a whirlpool. He gets picked up by this, I think it's like a cruise ship type of thing. So he gets picked up by the cruise ship and they think that it's just full of alcohol or something, so they take it down to the storage room. And during this time that they're picking this up, a pirate ship of Alvida's pirates storm this cruise ship and take it over and start taking the treasure. And one of the crew members on there is a boy named Kobe. Kobe is a... I don't know, it's hard to describe Kobe at the beginning. He's kind of a wuss. He's very scared. He's scared of everything, and like, the best way to describe him is to just tell you how he got on Alvida's ship. He actually, he went fishing. Alvida was walking by, said, "Hey boy, come be the cabin boy," and he just went along with it. So, like, right away, you kind of get the idea that he's not very willful. He's not, he doesn't stand up for himself and just lets people push him around and everything like that. So he goes down into the storage thing looking for food and trying to avoid all the fighting. He doesn't want to hurt anybody and stuff like that, hurt innocent people. And these guys come and they go to open up the barrel that Luffy's in, thinking that it's alcohol, and Luffy wakes up and punches this guy, and that's our big introduction for Luffy. He comes out of this barrel, hits this guy, knocks him out. These guys come to attack him and he knocks them both back easily. Very funny. It's watching this, it's totally a Luffy thing. I mean, he jumps into a barrel because his ship goes down in a whirlpool and then just pops out and hits somebody, knocks them out in cold. The two guys that he knocked out before went to tell Alvida about this monkey that jumped out of the barrel. That's what they were calling him. His name is Monkey D. Luffy, and they said he was like a monkey who jumped out of the barrel. And that's kind of the joke there. But Alvida comes down, breaks through the floor to confront Luffy, and Luffy like has a standoff with her, and they start to have a little bit of a fight. And this is when we get the introduction into Luffy's devil fruit. Now, devil fruit at this point in the story is very like mythical things. We're in the East Blue, so not a lot of people know it. It's not like later on you're gonna see a lot of other devil fruit holders. But here and in this area, it's just not very common. People think of it as like a myth, a legend, like it's very rarely seen. And he has the devil fruit, Gumu Gumu no Mi, the Gum Gum fruit. Basically makes him a rubber person. Anything you think of that a rubber can do, he can do. His main form of attack is his fists. He uses his elasticity in his arms or legs or whatever to rear back and punch. His main punch is Gumu Gumu no Pistol. He uses a lot of his naming scheme is like weapons, like pistol, hammer, axe, things like that. Bazooka is what he actually, I believe he uses bazooka to knock away Alvida. I don't quite remember, it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, he used bazooka to knock her away after calling her a fat cow. It's hilarious. After that, while he's on the ship, he hears something about this guy named Zorro. A very strong, kind of scary, like demonish guy is what Kobe describes him as. This like demon who wields 3 swords. So they go to Shelltown. In Shelltown, Luffy immediately wants to go find Zorro after he gets food. He's huge into meat. He's always asking about meat. Meat. That's his favorite thing to eat. So after he gets some food, he heads down to where Zorro is. He's on a crucifix. He was placed there by another character named Helmeppo, who plays a very minor role throughout the story, but he is in like a lot of the story. So you'll see him later on when we get into a lot of the action, like midway through where we're at in the series. So he puts Zorro, after Zorro stands up for these people in this bar, the bar owners. He stands up for them. Helmeppo makes a bet with him that he can't last 30 days without food on this crucifix. So Luffy goes there to meet Zorro and talks to Zorro a little bit. They have a little bit of confrontation with Helmeppo, where Helmeppo actually throws this little girl who's trying to feed Zorro out, which kind of makes Luffy mad, but he doesn't really do anything right there. Once Luffy goes back into town, later on during the day, Helmeppo's also there talking about how he's going to and at this time Luffy hears about why Zoro's been tied up and realizes that he's a good person, and he was standing up for the people who own the bar, and Helmeppo's the one who is being a dick. So he thinks a lot more highly of Zorro, and then Helmeppo's in the corner talking about how he's going to execute Zorro tomorrow. He doesn't care about his bet, and Luffy realizes he's not honorable. So Luffy actually runs up and just decks him and knocks him out. Helmeppo is actually the son of the captain of the Navy who is based in this town. So he runs back to Daddy, trying to get Daddy to go help. And realizing how good of a person Zorro is, Luffy decides to actually go back. It basically like tells him that he's going to be on his crew. He's like, so you're joining my crew, right? And he's like, no, I will never join a pirate's crew. And Luffy was like, so if I find your sword, you're joining my crew. And he's like, don't presume. It's pretty funny. They're bickering at first. So Luffy uses his Gumma Gumma no rocket to shoot himself up on top of it's probably like a 10-story building or something like that. It's super high. He shoots himself all the way up above it and breaks a statue that Captain Morgan, who is the leader of the Navy base in Shelltown, very corrupt, kind of like corrupted by the power basically. He was building a statue, making all of his forces like pick it up. Luffy breaks the statue and really pisses Morgan off. So after Luffy does that, he grabs Helmeppo to show him where Zoro's swords are, and Morgan's immediately goes down to where Zorro is, and Kobe's there at the moment telling Zorro about what Luffy did for him, how he punched Helmeppo because he was talking about executing him the next day, and Zorro realizes how good of a guy Luffy actually is, and that all pirates aren't like evil. I forgot to mention Zoro's epithet is the Pirate Hunter. He's Zorro, Roanoa Zorro, the Pirate Hunter, because he was a bounty hunter who went and killed pirates for money so that he can go on his voyage to become the greatest swordsman in the world. That's his main quest, that's his big dream. After Kobe tells him about this, Morgans comes around and tells the soldiers to execute them. So they all aim their guns, and right as they shoot, Luffy comes bursting out of the window and lands right in front of the fire and actually blocks it. And because he's rubber, the bullets, which are just browned obviously, they just bounce right off of him. They can't pierce his skin because he's rubber. So he bounces them right back at everybody and says that won't work. He's a big thing. He holds his arms out, catches all the bullets, fires them back, and goes, that won't work. And turns around and tell Zoro, I got your sword, which one is it? And Zoro goes, it's all of them. I use the three sword style. So they start to undo him, and Morgan says, take out your swords and attack him. Rubber cannot deflect a sword. I bet the sword will work. So they all run at him with the sword, and just in the nick of time, Luffy hands one of Zoro's swords to him. He cuts the ropes off, and then immediately catches probably like 10 guys' swords with just his 3. And he was like, he does the cool thing. He's holding them all back. He's turned around. He's facing towards Luffy, and all the soldiers are behind him. And he's like, if anyone moves, you're dead. And they just all like start freaking out, because he has this very demonic aura about him. I mean, you if you watched it, you saw he's like stretched out on this crucifix, and his head's down and his eyes are black, and it's just, he has this very demonic aura about him. So after that, they have a quick fight. Luffy knocks them all down, all the soldiers, and they go after Morgan's. And Morgan and them fight. Pretty easy fight for Luffy. He beats up Morgan very, very easily. Morgan can't get a hit. Helmeppo tries to use Kobe as like a hostage and points a gun at Kobe, and Luffy's just like, he's prepared to die, are you? It just like freaked Helmeppo out. It was great, and it actually showed how much Kobe had been growing to that point, because originally Kobe was a crybaby. He was scared, and he then at that point was like, I'm ready to die. I will die for you. Don't hurt yourself for me, or don't risk your life for me. I'm ready to die. I'm prepared to fight for what I believe in, and I don't want to join a Marine or the Marines who are this bad, who are this corrupt, who use their power, like abuse their power basically, which is Kobe's big dream. Kobe wants to become a Navy officer and eventually become an admiral. He wants to become an admiral. That's his big dream, kind of like Luffy. That's his big dream, kind of like Luffy wants to become the Pirate King. There's only one. Luffy wants to find the One Piece and become the Pirate King, and Kobe wants to become a admiral at one point, eventually. After this fight, they decide to, Zoro says that he will be with him. Oh, also, when Luffy fights Morgans, he beats him up a little bit, and then Helmeppo holds the gun. Luffy punches Helmeppo, and as he's punching that, Morgans tries to cut him, but Zoro comes in and cuts him, and it's a really cool scene after Zoro cuts him. I don't know if he does onigiri, does any name to it, or he just cuts him. I don't really remember. But he cuts him down, and Luffy goes, thanks Zoro, and it's cool. Zoro turns around, turns his head to the side a little bit, and he goes, no problem, Captain. And it's just like at that moment you realize that like he's really he's in this. Really cool moment. It's just really cool. After that, they go down to the bar and saying goodbye. They're getting food. All the villagers are thanking him for freeing them from Morgan's grip, because he was just abusing the power and abusing the townsfolk. And a bunch of Marines come in and ask them to leave because they are pirates. He says, we are grateful that you got rid of Morgans, but we can't have you stay here because you're pirates. And Luffy and Zoro understand this. They don't care, but all the villagers are like freaking out. They're having a problem with it. And as they go to leave, the Marine asks if Kobe is part of their crew, and Luffy's like, no, do you want to know what he did up to this point? And Kobe's like, don't tell him. He starts telling him about Alvida, and like as he's about to tell him about Alvida, Kobe actually punches Luffy. Like Luffy was making him mad, and then Luffy just starts decking him, like just going off on him. And the Marine soldier's like, that's enough. We understand that you two aren't together. We get it that he's not your crewmate. And then Luffy leaves, and Kobe's like, thank you for Luffy basically like made the Marines see that Kobe wasn't part of the crew, so that he can join the Marines. Right after they leave, Kobe has to be part of the Marines, and they accept him as a chore boy, going around cleaning up. They also bring on Helmeppo as a chore boy as well. We'll get to that later. They then set out. As they're sailing through, we get a little bit of Luffy's background. We see how he got his straw hat, which is his signature thing. That's his epitaph. It's Straw Hat Luffy. It's his treasure. It's the one thing that he will never get rid of. Also in Shelltown, we got a little tiny bit of Zorro's background. We see him fighting with a girl whose name we get later on. It's Kuina, blue-haired girl. He's training with her. She's beating him up, like whooping his ass. So we get onto the ship, and then it starts showing us Luffy's background. And basically we see him in a bar when he's real young, real little. I think he's like 8 or somewhere around there. I'm not 100% sure on his age at that time. I know it's been specified. I don't remember. But he's sitting in next to this guy named Red-Haired Shanks. Red hair, nice scar right here, looks badass, like really badass. And these mountain bandits come in and ask for alcohol. Well, the red-haired Shank pirate crew had already drank all of the alcohol, and Shank said, "I'm sorry." Well, the mountain bandit got pissed off and threw alcohol in him and threw food on him. Shanks didn't care. He really didn't care. He just laughed it off. The whole crew laughed it off and whatnot. But Luffy was pissed about this. Luffy's 8 years old. He's like, "You're a pirate. Your man should never have to get food thrown on him," things like that. So after Shanks' pirate crew went away, he went back and started picking a fight with the mountain bandits. And they start beating him up. Oh, this is also where he eats the Gummo Gummo no Mi. Shanks tells him to settle down and to leave it alone. It's not that big a deal. He gets mad. He sees this fruit right next to him, and that's Luffy's big thing is he eats. So he grabs this fruit and starts eating it. Shanks notices this, actually grabs him, and he says, "You didn't eat what was in that box, did you?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "That's a devil fruit. Spit it out." He like grabs him by the ankles. He's like shaking him, and his legs stretch. As Shanks shakes him, his legs stretch and his face hits the ground. Hilarious. But that's how he got the power. I got the Nomi no Mi devil fruit. Is Shanks had it and he accidentally ate it. After they all leave, he gets into a fight with the mountain bandits. They start beating him up, and Shanks' crew shows up. The mayor's there trying to tell them not to, but nothing's working, and then Shanks' crew shows up, and Shanks starts walking, and one of the mountain bandits points a gun at him, and he says, let's see if I get this, I don't know if I'm gonna get this right, but he says something like, "I see you've drawn your weapon, now put your life on the line." And the mountain bandits are like, "What?" And he's like, "These things aren't for threatening." And as he says that, one of his pirate crews comes up and just shoots him shoots the mountain bandit right in the head, like just lays him out dead. And they're like, "Oh, what a cheap trick, oh my god." And then Shanks is like, "We're pirates, what do you expect? No cheap tricks, what do you mean?" And so they just start rushing at him, and one of the pirate crew, one of Shanks' pirate crew grabs his, I want to say it's like a blunderbuss. It's this big musket looking thing, like a club on the end. He just swings it, knocks them all down, and pulls it over, aims it at the mountain bandit boss, and he's like, "What you gonna do now?" basically. And the mountain bandit does a smoke screen and escapes onto the sea, where he's actually killed by a sea king that stalks the coast. They call him King of the Coast, the Sea King. A very small Sea King compared to what we see later on in the story. But he kills the mountain bandit, and Luffy's like drowning as Shanks comes up right as the Sea King's about to kill Luffy. As the Sea King's about to kill Luffy, Shanks saves him and actually loses an arm in the process. And as they're packing up to leave, Shanks hands Luffy the straw hat and says, "Once you become a great pirate, bring this straw hat to me." After Luffy says that, "I'm gonna be a greater pirate than even you. I'll have a crew that's better than you, and I'll become the king of the pirates. I'll find the One Piece." And Shanks hands him the hat and says, "Once you become a great pirate, come find me and deliver this hat back to me." That's the thing he treasures the most in the world, is this hat, and that was given to him by Shanks. That's going to be it for the Shelltown arc. I'm going to be doing the other arcs, like the Buggy arcs next, I believe. Syrup Village after that. I wanted to do the whole series and get up to where we are now, including the Big Mom arc, which is what we're on in the anime right now, and we're actually on the Wano arc in the manga. So I want to get this done so that people can catch up on the series, because a lot of people want to get into One Piece, but they don't want to watch all of that. I mean, it's like 700 episodes or something. So I'm hoping that this is a good way for some people to catch up, and even if you want to just go back and listen to my review and everything, that would be great. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, sub. There are going to be more coming. Hit that like button, hit that bell button to be reminded whenever I do upload. Thank you. See ya.